Hello, this is another iBank video Ask an iExec podcast, and my guest today is Mr. Richard Munro. Richard Munro is the owner of Invents Inc., a consulting services that help struggling businesses or businesses that need a little kind of oomph in their step, if you will, during good times or bad times. And he's been around all different kinds of companies all over the world, actually. Thank you for joining us today, Richard. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about today. Richard's seen all different kinds of companies fail, succeed, fall flat, stagnant. Richard, what are you've been all different kinds of companies. What are some of the basic mistakes that you think, and operations-wise and procedure-wise, what do you think are some of the basic mistakes that companies make today?
Well, I think there's probably three main areas. Most businesses start off with either a great skill set or a great idea. And what tends to trip up most businesses is they don't have an effective plan to guide their decision making and operations and development of the company. Secondly, they don't really have a clear focus on what they're trying to offer and what kind of need that they're fulfilling for their customers. And thirdly, I've noticed a different trend here, particularly in 2009, where a number of businesses are still applying the same business model that they were using up until 2007 and early 2008.
Oh, yeah.
And in this economy, that's just not working as well as it used to work.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to take one of those three or all of those three, and you've got a certain scenario where a company is maybe focusing on too many things, what would you say would be the first step to either get back on track or to find positive cash flow? What would you say would be the number one thing someone should look at to move in a good direction?
I think you've got to focus on your strengths. You've got to focus on either the products that you offer or the services that you offer, and you've really got to prioritize them in terms of what is the market and what are your customers looking for, and almost go from highest and best use of time or assets down to lowest and least value, and really segment and prioritize and focus on the top priorities.
Okay, so now what about a company that's actually cash flowing okay, but they're just stagnant? You've met with organizations that are failing, and that's a good first step for a company that's potentially, not doing so hot. But what about companies that, they're making money, they're doing fine, they're just flat? And what are some opportunities, and where do you think they can go to potentially, get an oomph in their step to keep moving forward?
Well, I think you've really got to go back to basics. You've got to look at, once again, who are your current customers and what are they buying from you, and who are your biggest customers? Because, everyone's got limited time. There's 24 hours in a day. And so you can't be all things to all people. So the trick really is to focus on your key customers and talk to them. Find out what's happening in their business. Find out what changes their businesses are going through. And out of that, you're bound to find some ideas about how you can enhance your own products or your own services and make you more valuable to those customers so they want to buy more from you. Secondly, existing customers are your best source of referral. They're the people that are used to working with you, and they're the people who are going to say the nicest things about you and refer you to their friends and colleagues. For instance, if you're dealing with one business, maybe the businesses that are situated on either side of that business also need your service. So maybe you can ask for a referral to those business owners and go and talk to them.
Sure.
So very simple techniques, but it requires a real focus on getting back to the basics. What are your strengths? What is the value that you really offer? What are your customers looking for? How is their business changing? And how can you meet that need?
Absolutely. And then lastly, just briefly, how important is our metrics? How important is reporting when it comes to either not breaking even and potentially trying to get to that point, or even being stagnant and breaking even? I've heard you talk so much about making sure that you have good metrics, good data, and that you can track that data. Can you give us some topics on that real quick?
Yeah, well, as you know, Tommy, I'm really hot on that. There's an old saying, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, and it's so true. So what you need to do is look at the key operational drivers in your business, whether it's sales, whether it's gross margin, actual compared to budget. What are the operational measures in your business that are the difference between success and failure? And then make sure that you capture data, which forms a time series of data, so that you can track your progress, set goals, and measure whether you're achieving the success that you set out to do.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Richard, for being with us today. Where can iBank customers find some more information about you?
They can go to my website, which is www.invenz, that's INVENZ.com, or my email is richard@invenz.com.
Well, beautiful. Thank you so much again, Richard, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Tommy.
This has been another iBank Ask an iExec podcast. Thanks for joining us.